Hello everyone, Breadfish here. Today, I want to start a new series where I go over each faction and see how good they are in Guild Wars. So today, we're going to start off with the Imperial Guard. It's a faction that I definitely like, especially in the lore and the tabletop, but in the game, it's very much a mixed bag. They have some real stinkers, but they do actually have some pretty good hidden gems. So, starting off, we have Sybil. Now, she's a very interesting character because her stats aren't great. She doesn't do that much damage, so you think she's actually really bad. But she does have a decent bit of utility. Her active, not great. It's very high rolly, so it has a chance to keep attacking. But realistically, it's not going to do that much damage. So you probably shouldn't really invest into it. Everything about her, though, is definitely defined by her passive. Her passive is going to give anyone around her at the start of turn infiltrate so they don't get hit by Overwatch. And it's also going to give them a pretty big amount of damage reduction for each hit. So this essentially makes all of her allies around her have infiltrate so they don't have to worry about Overwatch. So she counters Overwatch strategies. And against characters that have a lot of different hits, she's actually pretty effective against those. The one thing that really holds her back, though, is just how squishy she is and how little damage she does. If her stats were better, like if, let's say, she actually was semi-tanky, I think she would definitely be a lot better, because the problem is, while she can make everyone around her tankier, she can't make herself tankier. So she's just going to die. For that reason, I'm going to put her in C, because she definitely does have use. Against Overwatch teams, like Red teams that are very annoying, she actually hard counters them. Next is Kutskoden, and man, he's entirely defined by his stats, and his stats just are not good. He's supposed to be this kind of like bruiser character that whenever he charges in, he does extra damage, and his active is that he can like throw a grenade that does AoE damage. The problem is his active does very little damage, and his charge isn't great. But I think the main thing actually holding him back is the fact that he does physical damage. Now, physical damage only has a pierce ratio of 1%. So he's going to run in, and if the enemy has any armor whatsoever, he's going to do like no damage. But if you actually look at his damage stat, his damage stat is actually decently high. So if he had a higher pierce, he would actually be doing a good bit of damage. But the fact that he does physical damage really sets him back. And for that reason, I have to give him D tier. Now, Thaddeus Noble is a very interesting case. He's basically entirely defined by his passive, which gives any characters within 2 hexes of him range damage on their ranged attacks. And this buff is doubled for people with the heavy weapons trait. So he specifically wants to be partnered with people with heavy weapons trait. His best partner is by far Volk, just because Volk does a lot of damage and has a heavy weapons trait. But he also works well with champions like Barakiel, Sarkwell, and Vindicta. I would say that this is definitely his like big name to fame, because his damage is not the greatest. He does have range 3, and he also suppresses. So he definitely does have use outside of that, but he's mostly defined by his passive. And if you're pairing him with the right people, it's actually pretty good. So for that reason, I'm going to give him B. I would probably give him high C if it wasn't for the fact that Volk is just so good in this game. And for that reason, I'm going to give him B tier. Now we go on to Commissar Yarrick. I actually really like Commissar Yarrick. I think he's pretty good, especially with battle fatigue teams. So he works incredibly well with units like Isaac, Zybia, some of the orcs, just anyone with battle fatigue. He's actually pretty good in there because his passive is going to greatly increase all their damage. And if someone with battle fatigue retreats, he's going to execute them, and then everyone else gets an even bigger damage increase. So he's pretty good, and his active allows him to summon Cadia Guardsmen. Starts off at 2, but then depending on how many units have died on his team, he can summon, I believe, up to 4. So his active, you don't necessarily want to use it at the start of the fight, but instead you want to use it after some of your units have died. And he's actually pretty good for that. Also, his damage output is pretty decent. It's definitely not bad. So for that reason, I'm going to give him B tier. He's very dependent, kind of like Thaddeus, but I feel like he's a little he's a little bit more niche in his applications, and Thaddeus has the added benefit that he has range 3 and suppress, so he can stop people like Revos. Now for Castellan Creed. He's a very old legendary character, so I feel like a lot of people underrate how good he actually is. He's pretty good. His passive is whenever he gets attacked, he has a summon that's going to take the hits for him, kind of like Celestine. He only has one summon, but the summon is much tankier than Celestine, so he has inbuilt durability. If you look at his stats, he's like the most middling stat character around. He does like middle damage. He has like middle tankiness. He's just very overall middling. His active is going to also summon Cadian Guardsman, kind of like Yark. So a lot of his synergies has to do with Yark. He is really good with Yark because they both just summon a lot of Cadian Guardsmen, and Yark's going to buff those Cadian Guardsmen. For that reason, I'm going to give him a B tier. I definitely like him a lot, especially if you're going to pair him with Yark. And I do like that he has the added durability of the summon. And now, lastly, Dreer. One of my favorite characters in the game. He is just so good. His stats are pretty alright. He's actually, he's not squishy, but he's not as tanky as you would think he would be. And the reason why he's a little squishier is because of his passive. His passive is called Hard to Kill, where it greatly reduces crit damage against him and crit chance against him. And he also heals HP each turn. So he's a little bit more, it's kind of like a drain tank. He doesn't have to hit people to heal, but he's just going to heal as the battle goes on. So if he doesn't get like one shot, then he's just going to keep healing up. His active is definitely his main bit of fame for him. His active is going to be he charges at an enemy and he's going to summon all these other Krieg Riders. And they're pretty good summons. They do decent damage and they're somewhat tanky. He's going to summon, I believe it goes to a max of 5. And essentially his main purpose is that he's just going to run in, he's going to clog the board with these summons, and he's going to be pretty hard to kill, especially if the enemy has to go through all of his summons. So for that reason, I'm going to put him in S tier. And I put him in S tier because he basically makes any Guild War team comp just better. He is very versatile. You can put him in basically any team comp. If you have a team comp that has a lot of backline but doesn't have much frontline, he can actually just be the sole frontline because he's going to clog the frontline with all these summons, and the AI is just going to target all these summons and leave your backline alive. And for that reason, I put him in S tier. All right, thank you all very much for watching. Stay tuned for the next one. Bye-bye.